Hello students, we are starting to, believe it or not, we're starting to wrap up our discussion of neurophysiology, and what we're discussing in this segment is neural summation. And what we're basically talking about here is how those EPSPs and IPSPs can add up together to create an action potential. So it's a single EPSP, a single excitatory postsynaptic potential, a single ESP that can be caused by a neurotransmitter binding to its neurotransmitter receptors, but a single one will not reach threshold. We have to have lots of neurotransmitters binding to the neurotransmitter receptors, creating lots of EPSPs. And if we create lots of EPSPs, we can reach threshold, and that will cause the neuron to fire. That will cause the neuron to create an electrical impulse, that action potential. However, IPSPs, we can have inhibitory neurotransmitters that create IPSPs that lower the voltage of the neuron's membrane and take the neuron away from threshold and make the neuron less likely to fire. And then finally, of course, the EPSPs and IPSPs, they can add up together and they can cancel each other's effects out. So we're going to talk about two, and all that process is called summation, kind of essentially adding them up. If I add up enough EPSPs, I'll get threshold. If I add up a lot of IPSPs, the neuron will be inhibited, and I won't get the neuron to fire. And we have two types of summation. We have temporal summation. Temporal summation is adding up EPSPs and IPSPs over time. Temporal refers to time. We also have spatial summation. In this case, we're adding up EPSPs and IPSPs over different spaces, over different parts of the cell body and the neuron. So let's take a look at that. In this first example, A, in this case, we have no summation. We have one EPSP coming in. It raises the voltage, but not to its threshold. Quite a bit of time passes. We have another EPSP coming in, but they're not close enough together in time to reach threshold. Here in the second example, we have two EPSPs. We have two EPSPs, one right after another. So here's one EPSP, and then we could create another EPSP, and that second EPSP adds to the first one. We reach threshold, and the neuron fires. We create the action potential. So that's temporal summation. The EPSPs adding up over time to reach threshold to create an action potential. In this case, we have spatial summation. We have one EPSP here on the neuron, and we have another EPSP here on the neuron, and those two neurons together, those two EPSPs together in different parts of the neuron add up together to get an action potential. So here we have spatial summation. We have two EPSPs arriving from two different parts of the neuron. They add up together to create the action potential. And then finally, in this case, I have an IPSP and an EPSP. And the IPSP, it takes the neuron further away from threshold. So that when I have then an EPSP and an IPSP together, the IPSP has taken the neuron away from threshold. The EPSP is not enough to then reach threshold, and the neuron's inhibited. I get no firing. I get no creation of the action potential. Thank you.